Hello and welcome to Get Into Games on Air, a podcast about board games and the people who play them. As always, I am Craig, aka Get Into Games, and joining me on the podcast, as always, is my lovely wife, Rebecca. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Good, I'm glad. Well, we have a very exciting episode for you all today. Episode 22, in fact. That's 22 episodes, top 1%, baby. Today we have the wonderful Viv and John, otherwise known as Viv and John, from Viv and John Land. Hello, Viv and John. How are you doing?
Thanks for using our full title.
Yeah.
Good, I'm glad. Of course, we have Viv Egan and John Gracey on with us to chat all things board games, party games, clock towers, social deduction, and much, much more. Viv and John, how are you doing? Are you okay?
We're great, thank you.
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Right.
I'm hearing some clicking. I think. Do you have a pen in your hand? Does someone have a pen?
There is never
Oh.
clicking. Or
That's weird.
No, I've seen Becky's just removed the pen, so I think we're good.
I do not edit this podcast.
Good.
And I shan't be editing this podcast.
Pour out. You're so welcome, listeners.
Damn
Caught
it.
that at the start. This is good.
I didn't do a thing. Don't worry about it. That's all in. Everything is in. Don't worry about it, because I've got a Wrench, Shuffle and Roll Out coming up later on that's going to blow your mind. Anyway, so, without further ado, adieu. I said adieu.
Without further ado.
Adieu.
Okay.
Becky is right.
Yeah.
It is a do.
No.
No, that's the
Must be
song.
Silly.
That's the song.
Aga do.
Get on with it.
Hello.
You might want to start editing because Becky got you good there, Craig.
I will never edit. I do not edit. There will be no edits. That's it. We're 2 minutes in, and this is going swimmingly. Hello. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure.
So, who are you, lovely guests that
Should we
we have?
introduce each other?
Sure, we can introduce each other.
Okay, that
sounds good.
I'll start by introducing you.
Okay.
So this is John, also known as Mr. Egan, but to our Twitch followers, they often call him Mr. Egan. But to the wider world, he's known as John Gracey.
My maiden name.
Yeah, a comedian, YouTuber, and writer.
This is really weird.
Host
I know it was
of
my
Blood on the Clock Tower Live, and I don't know, my housemate. So there you go.
husband as well.
Yeah,
If that's relevant.
Yeah, that's also a fact.
Yeah.
It's like the wedding vows going back again. It's beautiful.
This is Viv Egan, producer, writer, director, costume designer, all-round, mad skills, very, very good at she's very good at coming up with ideas, but almost better at turning not very good ideas that I have into beautiful things.
AKA the power behind the throne.
Absolutely. Yeah. And is my wife, which I'm going to mention because I'm not a bad partner.
Yeah. Excellent. Cool. So we've all recently been back from UK Games Expo, and you were there demoing You Know It, your fantastic new game that is fully funded on Kickstarter. Just a touch over the £6,000 goal that you had of 47,237. Yeah. That's pretty good going. That's pretty good going, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been absolutely crazy. Yeah, thank you.
How did you find the expo?
Oh no, our internet's cut.
Oh, no.
Internet, no, come back.
Internet?
Oh.
Shit.
What's going
We
on?
literally only just started. They're there. They're back.
Sorry,
Our internet
Hello.
froze.
What happened there? That's okay.
I
will not edit a thing.
No editing.
No editing a thing.
But we were talking about Games Expo, and yes, the thing that we both neglected to say in our introductions is that we have recently designed a board game, which is currently funding on Kickstarter. So yes, we went to the Games Expo and we were demoing it all day, every day of the expo. just basically non-stop, except when we were doing shows.
The wild thing about that was I've done the expo before, kind of showcasing other games. We have a company called History Mysteries that used to be called Mini Mysteries. I think when you played them, Craig and Becky, they were Mini Mysteries, but it's now History Mysteries. We've rebranded, but the games are the same. And that was really fun. And it kind of we'd be talking about the game and we'd be watching people play puzzles. But with this, because we were running it and essentially asking trivia questions for a rotating group of 6 people, I would sit down at the stand at 9:15 because I'd be late, supposed to be there at 9. I'd be there at 9:15, and then it would suddenly be 6 p.m. and the day was gone, and it went so fast. But it was great, like really, really exciting, and a testament to the fact that I don't hate playing the game, even though I've run it 100 plus times.
Both of us, we had 2 little tables. We were each running the game just like all day, and in the past it's been so tiring just pitching mini mysteries with the same kind of set of phrases over and over again in a kind of really salesy way. But with this, it's just like, do you want to come play? Here's how you play. Let's have a nice game together. And we met loads of lovely people. Yeah. And enjoyed playing our own game.
Yeah, and you actually get to know people a bit because when they're playing it, part of the kind of start of the game is asking people, who they are, like what their background is, and also what topics they're good or bad at in a pub quiz. So you immediately get to learn that this person really likes animals, or this person has a degree in biology or whatever. So it's not just, hey, come and play my game. It's let's actually hang out and learn a little bit about each other. And obviously you're not there for that long, so we're not getting like super deep and meaningful, but you are forming an actual connection beyond just, hey, would you like to buy my game? But yeah, I was like, I have to go and wee. If I don't wee, I'm going to piss myself.
We had to carve out time for things like eating. And...
Viv would buy me a bagel and I would eat it cold at like 5 o'clock every day when I was so hungry that I had to do something. But it was great. Like it was because I was so engaged. I was having such a nice time.
Because we normally always see you at the mini mysteries or the history mysteries, the booth, and we also say hi and have a chat. And this year I was like, I'll just quickly walk past. I'll just say hi to John and Viv. No, no, I won't. No, and I must have walked past the booth about like 10 times.
Oh no,
going, no. I can't even get a game in. I can't even like squeeze in.
Yeah, quite a few people said that exact same thing. But because I'm there looking at everyone, I've got my world becomes this table for an entire day. It's really weird. And if people kind of enter into my like Overwatch space, I'll see them and go hello. And if not, they're just like the other like 35,000 people at the expo. It's a really strange experience, but ultimately very positive because the game is really fun to keep playing, which is really nice.
Yeah,
it's cool. Did you find any day specifically busier than any other, or was it just...
I think Saturday was pretty full on. It was so full. And also because we do shows, so we had the Werewolf live show on Friday and on Saturday, but on Saturday John also had Neryl's Bard, the Neryl's Bard show. We had to get a friend, the person who edited all of our videos for the Kickstarter, James. We just asked him to come up as an extra pair of hands on the Saturday, and I'm so glad we did because at one point he was running 2 games just like by himself, like running between the 2 tables while we were off doing the show. So
I also did a panel at 6:30 on the Saturday after 2 shows, which was talking about comedy and games and how you can combine the two. So it was,
then after that we had a meet up with our sort of Discord, Twitch people directly after that panel, and we were playing Clocktower with them until like 1. So it was a big day. It was really fun.
Saturday definitely the busiest day, but Friday was pretty full on. Sunday was noticeably a bit quieter, but I would say Friday pretty busy, and then Saturday was really wild.
Because I heard there were 30,000 on Friday.
30 something,
really? On Friday. Wow.
Oh wow.
Because the total was something like 40...
60...
Was it 60?
60
it was 63 uniques and like 40 something, nearly 40 uniques, 40k uniques, and 60 like entries. So some of which would have been like people coming in more than one. I don't know how they count that.
I know.
Someone with a little clicker.
Are you unique? You look unique. Click. Yep. I've seen you before. Go away.
That must be what that's what the Ghostbusters do in the foyer.
Yeah.
They're scanning people down. They're just writing them on their list.
Checking them out.
They actually do a really important job.
Yeah. People always mock them and say, hey, this is quite invasive. You're scanning all these guests who haven't consented to this, but actually they're doing a really important job.
Don't be
slagging off those Ghostbusters.
That's probably it. Though, damn them.
I would say edit that out, Craig, but I know you're not going to.
I will never edit anything ever. The game. So what gave you the main impetus, the main idea of the game? What made you go, I want to make this type of game, a party puzzle, a trivia kind of game? That
is a great question, and the answer is sort of twofold. One of them is that Matt, who does all the visual work and does for History Mysteries as well, he was saying, I really want to make something just way more simple than History Mysteries because they're so complex and they take such a lot of effort, and you almost can't play test them until the whole thing is designed.
Yeah, and the bottleneck is always Matt's visuals, because the puzzles we can design in probably a week. Some are a bit more complex than others, but they're so dependent on Matt's visuals that we were like, this is just you for weeks on end, just grafting away. And that's not a great model when we've got multiple people who are good at stuff, who are just sitting there going, I can't design.
Yeah, and it's worth the wait because he's such a good designer.
100%
His vision is incredible, and he's such a hard worker that he will make sure that everything's perfect.
Yeah.
But he was just like, it's too much. I don't want to do this anymore. Let's do something really easy.
Yeah, it just wasn't an efficient use of our time. He is easily the best designer I've ever worked with, but it wasn't when you have people who are capable of doing stuff you're at a bottleneck. It's just what are we doing in terms of making new things?
Yeah, so he said that, and then sort of separately, but not that long beforehand, we played a little kind of parlor game with a group of our friends, one of whom was like, I want to play this game. I don't even know where he got it from. He called it the reference game, and it was...
I guess they made it up on holiday, right?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to ask him about that. Yeah. But he was like, so you just say a reference from a movie or a TV show or something, and then you guess how many people around the table will know the reference. And so we played that a bit with them on holiday, and we had really good fun. And we were like, this is kind of cool. So then when Matt wanted to have a meeting about making something a bit more party game, board gamey, well, you actually said, "Nah, that's not very good." You didn't want me to suggest it. I was like, "We could suggest that one, the reference game," and you're like, "Not sure." And I was like, "I think it's good." So we did that, and we played a few rounds, and we're like, "Oh yeah, it is fun." But
John's right. This is missing.
The reference part is hard to kind of quantify, and so what would the game be? Would the cards be just hasta la vista, baby? What is it?
I think my reticence was it's great if you are with a group of people who all are really into film, for example, or TV, because then you're like, oh, do they know this obscure thing or not? But our friend Claire, we mentioned this in the Kickstarter blurb, our friend Claire just doesn't really watch much film or TV, so she just never knew any of them. So it was a lot of fun just kind of going, oh, is this going to be one of the ones that Claire knows? But I figured that's not very accessible in the long term. So when Viv came up with this evolution to the plan,
I said, well, why don't we make it a trivia game? So that was kind of how it became It, which is what it is now, which is now a trivia game where you also get points for guessing how many people playing know the answer, and also for placing specific bets on other players, which that came a bit later.
Yeah, and it's fascinating how, going back to the original thing, because initially we did it with trivia and it was fine, but we learned fairly early on that if the questions are too easy, the game just isn't fun. So we would just do it with questions we found online that generally from questions that are relevant to people our age, so 90s culture or The Simpsons or whatever. And most of the time it would be everyone's going to know the answer to this. And that was fine because it was still a fun game, but it didn't have any kind of excitement to it. And then we were playtesting it, and Adam was very helpful in the designing of it, specifically this specific point, which was he had the thought of doing it with much harder questions. And that took the game from, this is fun, to, oh, this really kicks now, because suddenly you're like, oh, I don't know if anyone knows this. That's so much more interesting than, oh, everyone probably knows this because there's a Harry Potter question. We're all nerds. We've read Harry Potter. But yeah, basically, we took the game from this fairly solid concept and then made lots of small changes, like adding the score tracker on the outside. Having single bets on each player was really important, so you can't all just bet on one person. And they're not doing much on their own, but cumulatively it turned it from this is really fun to, this really fires now.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of streamlining process, which is not as important as the primary design thing, but it really did elevate it, I think.
Yeah, big time.
I can't remember what your question was, but that's what we did.
How did we come to decide to make a game like this?
Yeah.
So who's your target demographic for the game? Who are you aiming it at?
Good question.
That's a really good question, because I think all the stuff we make, including History Mysteries, is designed to be kind of for the family, because we don't want anyone, literally you all could get into games, I imagine, for the same reason, which is you want people to play games, you want people to feel involved and included. So all of the stuff we make is designed to be as non-gatekeepery and as accessible as possible, so that people don't go, oh, that looks fun, but I'm worried I'm going to feel stupid, or worried I'm not going to get it, or anything like that. So our audience really is definitely fans of trivia, because it's a trivia game, but also people who maybe feel a bit uncomfortable with trivia because there's so much of the game is about betting on other people. It doesn't actually matter that much if you don't know many of the answers. It's much more about reading the room and kind of seeing what other people know. Yeah,
so I'd say demographics-wise, the place where I see it being played is kind of where we started playing the very early version of it, on holiday with friends. With the family on Christmas Day, or maybe Boxing Day or something like that. Very kind of we all want to do something together that's not I don't know, talk about the weather or some racist uncle's opinions. Here's something we can all get on board with. So in terms of demographics, I think we're kind of ultimately it's going to be for people kind of roughly our age, 30s, 40s. They want to, maybe they want to include a friend who's not super gamey, but there's a little bit of a mechanic in there that you can still kind of strategize about and enjoy, even if you're quite an experienced gamer. There's a bit of that in there, but it's broadly just very accessible.
Yeah, and you also learn really surprising things. We played with some of Viv's friends from choir the other night, who Viv you kind of knew but didn't know super well. And you end up learning a whole bunch. One of them lived in Belgium for many years, which we just didn't know because a question on, I think it was Tintin came up. Yeah. So it's just a really nice thing for generating conversations. I think it's really good for families. And Viv said 30s to 40s, but we've had little kids playing, and they can really have fun because the questions are going to be very varied. And brilliantly, this wasn't planned. At the expo, we were using Trivial Pursuit cards because all the questions we've currently written, we know the answers to, so we can play. And the one round where little Noah came along to play, one of the questions was something like, who earns the ability, who is able to do the cheese touch when blah, 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 is the name of a character. And so you probably recognise that. I had no idea, but it's from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And Noah was really excited because he's a kid and he's read it. So I think if you can have questions that scale like that, you get that lovely moment where a kid who might feel a bit these are really difficult, gets to have their moment of shining. So I will say that I think the age range is quite broad.
Yeah. It has got that cool thing that I quite like about trivia games, things like Wits and Wagers and stuff like that, where you don't necessarily need to know the answer to still get points and stuff, and that's a really cool kind of mechanic within the game to kind of level the playing field. So even because if we played, for example, if we played something like Trivial Pursuit with your mum, what's the point? Yeah. There's no point. Just okay. Great. I'm glad you know every capital city in every country of the world, even that tiny North Sentinelese island that now has a capital city that you somehow know.
But in this game, you can then just bet on her all the time, and you'll get loads of points.
Exactly. So
are there any plans for an expansion? Because obviously, once you come to the end of trivia questions, you know the answers. Have you got plans for more sets? Or?
We do, yeah.
There's a few on the Kickstarter already because we've hit so many stretch goals. We were panicking for different stretch goals, so we thought we could have new questions. That would be nice. So we've got a 90s pack. I think we've got a movies pack. I think these are 50 questions each. But we'll definitely do more packs down the line.
Beyond the Kickstarter, we'll do expansions on specific topics. and probably one that is a bit more geared towards kids as well.
Yeah, I think a kids one would be great.
Although I don't know how we're going to write them because I don't know anything about kid culture.
That's a very good point. We'll have to just get a bunch of kids to write them.
What could possibly
We'll have to
wrong?
use child labour is the answer.
Yeah. It works for Primark. I mean,
Get them.
it's all right. They don't listen to this.
Yet.
Oh no, it'd be so popular.
But yeah, but we've played it with my parents a bunch who don't really play games very much, and they really enjoyed it. We even played it with my granny, who's 95 and is unfortunately currently losing her mind, which is very sad. But she still managed to enjoy the game. I mean, yeah, she's doing okay, but she still had fun.
Bring the mood down.
Well, the important thing is she had fun with the game. That's how good our game is.
That's how good it is.
No, she's doing fine. Don't worry about her. But
so, how many days left of the Kickstarter? Was it?
It's just ticked over to 10. So we're recording this on the 9th of June, and it will be finishing at 5 p.m. on the 20th of June.
Cool.
And we've decided the other day for our sins, we're going to do a 24-hour stream that's going to end just before the 5 p.m. and then we'll do like another hour as we kind of celebrate.
Yeah, we'll do like a countdown.
Which I'm dreading because I'm going to be so tired, but we want to make it as big a thing as possible.
Yeah.
We also have a bunch of stretch goals which we haven't reached yet, like a little drawstring pouch for the tokens, which would be fun. Couple of other things.
Coloured marker pens.
Oh yeah,
as well.
What were we playing the other day that we had them in, and we got really excited?
I don't know what the name of the game was.
We were playing a game that had marker pens that matched the colour of the thing. We were like, "Oh, that looks great. Let's put that in." But the final one, which we're not going to reach, which is good, we're currently on something like 47,000.
Yeah.
If we make it to 100,000, which we won't, I'm going to do something terrible, which I haven't fully decided yet. But it's going to be really either humiliating or physically exhausting or both or something else. I mean, we need to decide what it is, but it'll be really bad.
Yeah, our stream decided it should be a tattoo.
I'm not doing that.
Of the logo.
I'm absolutely not doing that. I see your face, Becky. It's not going to happen. But it will be quite humiliating, probably, or at the very least, physically demanding.
Well, let's get it there then.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I think it has to be something I actively don't want to do. So at least I go, well, we made this incredible stretch goal. So I don't feel so bad that I have to do this terrible thing. But I'm not getting it.
You know it, Cody Rhodes style tattoo on the side of your face.
Side of my face.
You heard it here, £100,000.
If people keep saying it, I'm really worried I'm going to bow to peer pressure and do it. But I'm not. Don't bow to peer pressure, kids. It's not cool.
No. Terrible idea. But that neck tattoo is going to be wonderful.
Daddy, why does your neck say you know it? Well, there's a tale. I was on a podcast.
It was just me finishing my story.
Shall I ask my question?
You should ask your questions.
So, do you prefer Werewolf or Clocktower?
Easy. Werewolf, baby. What are you talking about?
So do you want to talk about Werewolf first or Clocktower first?
I think there's an interesting further question there, which is, or at least the clarification, in a performance context, because obviously we play Werewolf, we do Werewolf Live, our comedy show, and we do Blood on the Clocktower Live, which is a very whittled down version of Blood on the Clocktower for the stage.
I'm also being very glib. Blood on the Clocktower is objectively a better game. But it does depend what group you have. So again, grandparents, I've played Werewolf with them. This is a few years ago now, but they had loads of fun and they got it. I could never play Blood on the Clocktower with my grandparents. They just would never get it. So like, you know, I get asked this a lot and I'm always sassy and say Werewolf's better. It's not. It's much simpler, but they just serve very different needs. Like Werewolf is the gateway drug that gets you into social dynamics.
Yeah.
It's really important that it exists in the ecosystem, but there will be a point after many games where you want something more, and that's where Clocktower is perfect, and it's got so much more meat to it, so much more nuanced. But they both are so useful on different like ends of the scale.
Yeah, like we don't play Werewolf at home, for example.
Yeah,
but we do play Clocktower.
Yeah. Also, I've run Werewolf Live so many times. Sometimes friends ask me to do it. I'm like, please, it's my job. I just can't conjure up another German village right now. I just want to sit and have a drink. But Clock Tower's incredible. It's, has such amazing coincidences and hilarious things that happen, and it's an incredible game. But then sometimes you just need something really simple that everyone can understand. And given our ethos as Invisible Typewriter, we haven't actually mentioned our company's name. Invisible Typewriter is our games company. The kind of games we make are more Werewolf than Blood on the Clock Tower, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But I love that they both exist, and I love that they both serve different needs.
Yeah.
So, for those people who don't know what Werewolf is, do you want to explain what Werewolf is and
what maybe the difference between you doing Werewolf live compared to Werewolf as a game?
Yeah. So Werewolf is, I guess, it's the original social deduction game, unless there's like an older one that I'm not aware of. And essentially, it's 7 or however many you want, but I'd say baseline 7 players. 2 of them are secretly evil, 5 are good. And the evil players know who the other ones are, so they're working together as a team. But the good players only know individually who they are, so they don't know who else is on the good team. And it was designed as a psychological experiment by a Russian student in the 80s to kind of examine groupthink and how kind of an informed minority could sway a group. It's just this brilliant psychological game of bluffing and trying to figure out who's evil. And it's incredible. It's so much fun. It's super easy to learn. And then a bunch of Princeton students took Mafia, as it was called. It was the game that developed by the Russian student was Mafia. Turned it into, the Princeton students turned Mafia into Werewolf and just kind of reskinned it to make it a bit more horror themed. And that's kind of the game that most people know. Whereas Blood on the Clock Tower is a much more complex, nuanced game where every single player has their own special ability. They're still trying to do the same thing, which is to kill the evil players in order to win, the hidden evil players. But everyone has a different ability that allows them to affect their narrative in different ways. And crucially, in Blood on the Clock Tower, you have a storyteller who can affect the flow of the game, whereas in Werewolf, the person running the game is completely neutral. I mean, you can nudge the game a little bit by suggesting that a werewolf, someone you know is a werewolf, says something, or asking a quiet player to say something, but you can't directly choose what happens, whereas in Blood on the Clock Tower, the storyteller.
But actually, the question was about Werewolf versus Werewolf Live, our game show, so we basically, when did we start doing it? We started doing it in 2017.
The first time we ever did it was at a conference in Turkey in 2014.
We learned the game Werewolf, and we were kind of hanging out with these people. We used to be digital nomads, and we used to like travel around and work from our laptops. But we spent like a month one time in a hotel on the south coast of Turkey. In the off season.
Very cheap in the off season. So we were there for a month.
So with just a bunch of other nomads, and 2 of them were a German couple and Werewolf was really popular in Germany, and they brought some games, and we were playing some board games and things like Saboteur and other stuff. But then they taught us Werewolf, which you had heard of on Shut Up and Sit Down.
Yes, but never played.
But not played. And then we suddenly had like groups of, it kind of number fluctuated, but 10 to 20 people all wanting to kind of hang out and do stuff at night. So essentially the character that now is the host of Werewolf Live was basically formed then 10 years ago.
We had these horrible, in fact, you won't be able to see us at home, but for your information, Craig and Becky, this colour, I've got a lime green water bottle. I had a horrible polo shirt that was that colour, and it was quite big, so I pulled it up over my head like a kid trying to tell a spooky story. Had my iPhone with the torch on under my chin. It was about the most low budget thing it could be, so it had a little bit of kind of shadow like that.
Yeah, but we put there was a projector in the room that we played, and there was
it was like a conference room in a hotel.
Yeah. But we turned off all the lights and we put a fire video from YouTube up on the wall, and everyone had a little tea light that was represented their life, and John would come out with this thing and he'd pull one person at a time into the room and hand them their little slip of paper. So it was quite atmospheric right from the start. Anyway, we kind of played around.
400 seater.
No,
take ages.
We kind of played around with different versions of Werewolf as a kind of live almost experience. We did a few different things with that, but then Paul Flannery of Nightmare Live was curating a week of comedy horror like shows at the Vault Festival, now defunct, RIP
Vault Festival
in London, and asked John to do something, and you were like...
And the reason he'd heard of it is because we did, Viv, I think this was your idea. We did a immersive theatre version in Sydney where we were living at the time, where Viv cooked an entire tureen of soup. Everyone ate together as a town beforehand. We sang a town song that a friend of the show either wrote himself. Yeah, I think he wrote it himself. And then there was an actor playing the town mayor who came in and was like, we're all going to eat together and then I have important, information to impart to you, and everyone would eat. Then he'd come back after dinner and would come to say his piece, and then the lights would flash and an actor in a werewolf thing would jump in, werewolf mask would jump in and pull him off stage.
Yeah, so it was much more like immersive theater-y horror.
But it was also, there were 30 people there and we played one game. So if you died at the start, you were just sitting around for 2 hours. So it did not work.
Yeah.
But we told Paul about that, or he heard about that, and then he got in touch. And then we did the live version, which was much, much more streamlined. Yes. That was 8 people on stage, I think, at the time.
Yeah. But as a comedy game show as opposed to an immersive theatre piece.
Yes, so it's just a game.
And it was, at that time, we got the players from the audience.
Yes.
So 3 different sets of 8 people would play the game on stage, and it was really silly and a lot of fun. Yeah. And we're like, oh, this is so much better. And then
we're also really worried that people wouldn't want to come and watch.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know, people who play a lot of games, my instinct is everyone always wants to play. So I was like, who's going to come to a theatre show and watch someone else play?
Turns out a lot of people, they're like, I won't have to play, will I?
Yeah, we got all these messages being like, I really want to come, but I don't want to play. Is that okay? I'm like, absolutely, please. I didn't realise people like you existed. Yeah. We need you.
So you're getting the full history here.
Yeah,
so we did that. We decided we'd take it to the Fringe.
He'll edit it down.
Oh, yeah,
just
yeah.
No.
We took it to Edinburgh, and even sort of back then, I was like, I actually think this would be a good TV show.
We did talk about it, even in Australia. I remember talking about it in 2016. The other little piece of it was we moved to Australia, and I was very lonely because I didn't have any friends, and I kept trying to invite people around to play Werewolf because it was like, this is something I can offer. Yeah. And so Viv would cook, and we would eat together and play Werewolf afterwards. So it's always been a very social experience, even before it was a show.
Yeah, totally.
But we talked about TV in Sydney in 2016. I remember thinking, that's so silly, but that's fun.
Yeah, so we did this run at the Edinburgh Fringe with the audience participation thing. It was this late night thing. It was quite rowdy. It was a lot of fun. But we also did a one-off charity night at one of the bigger venues of the Fringe, and we got comedians to play. And we had no idea what we were doing, but it went really well. Scared. And it was super fun. We at the start of the Fringe, we'd sold 12 tickets.
It was 8. It was 8 tickets for half
400 seat theatre.
We had this
terrified.
We had this huge whiteboard in our Fringe room.
You're getting the full story.
And Viv drew this huge board out. So I'd written a play that we were taking up that year as well, and that was selling really well because it was midday. It was theatre, even though it was a bit comedy. So older people will book for theatre because they've got money, so they love going and see the theatre. So we'd sold super well with that, and so I had the numbers every day.
We had the Werewolf show, so we had 2 shows a day, and then we had this one, and I had list of every day how many cumulative sales have we made,
and it was looking great for both the first 2 shows. Then at the bottom it had Werewolf Live Charity, and it was just 8,
12. 12, 17.
And I was like, this is a 410-seater.
We've got Marcus Brigstock and Nish Kumar. They're coming to play.
The lineup was incredible.
It was great.
And I was like, this is going to be 8 people in the room. This is going to be the most embarrassing.
But it ended up being about 200 people bought tickets, and then at the Fringe, I think it was 198 sales.
Oh, was it?
And then
I had 215.
I think then, maybe it was 270. Maybe that was, anyway, it was around that.
It was enough. It didn't feel embarrassing.
People, other performers can come in for free. So a whole bunch of people used their passes to come in. So it felt really full, and it was absolutely great.
It was great. It was magic.
And then we were like, this is the show forever.
Crucially, we had a TV producer who'd been to the other show and was like, this is really good, but from a TV perspective, I don't think audience interaction is going to cut it. And then he came to see we were like, well, come and see the comedian show. Maybe you'll think that's different. He saw that and said, yes, that's the one. So
And so ever since then...
Ever since 2018.
We've been working with the company that he worked for, Avalon, which makes Taskmaster. And it's been a long old road.
It was looking really good. And then in March 2020, if you remember that famous one, we had a big show that we had a bunch of TV commissioners coming to. And then I can't remember what happened. Something happened. Some kind of cold,
one of those things.
Someone sneezed.
So that show was postponed by about 2 years. So everything was pushed back. So it's a mixture of bad luck and just these things. These things take a long, long time.
They do. But yeah, we're now working directly with the exec producer of Taskmaster, who is like, he's been in the industry for like 30 years.
And he's brilliant. And he's come up with loads of really good fixes and tweaks to make it a bit more TV friendly. And actually, our next show is going to be in London at the Soho Theatre on the 24th of June, if anyone wants to come to that. We started posting little reels of just videos taken from our Werewolf shows, and that has really helped with ticket sales. So I'm less stressed than I normally am, because normally we're just like, please come. But it's selling really well now. But it'll be really fun. We always, now the company we're with books all the comedians, so we don't have to do any of that. But they always book amazing comedians. So 24th of June, if you fancy, come and see Werewolf live in London. It's great.
That sounds very exciting.
That was such a long answer. I'm so sorry.
That's good. What I'm looking forward to is Cheese Feast Live.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
Could you imagine sneaking on that stage? Don't touch on those mics. Oh, look beautiful. I love it.
It's very visual. I love it.
Cheese Feast Live, I think, could work.
Totally. A big novelty cheese.
Yes. Oh, imagine
everyone.
Would you mind grabbing the charger?
Yeah.
I'm going to run out of battery. Cheese Thief Live, I love it.
So Clocktower Live is more what's the main difference with your Blood on the Clocktower Live side of things?
Yeah, so we were approached. Stephen Medway, hilariously, who's the designer of Blood on the Clocktower, hilariously saw Werewolf Live in Sydney. We did one show in Sydney as a proper live show, not the dinner theatre one. Was it 2017? And Stephen Medway happened to come to that show.
He was there and he played on stage.
And, Blood on the Clocktower wasn't a thing at the time, so...
Yeah. But we did know people. My friend from uni, Erin, was like, some friends of friends are developing this game.
Yeah,
that's
we were
like Werewolf.
how big's it going to be?
Okay, fine, good, whatever.
And Evan was there as well.
Yeah, Evan also played, from the Pandemonium Institute.
Yeah, so Stephen had seen the show and had said we were filming the how to play videos with No Rolls Barred. We did a little video we filmed with the Pandemonium Institute of just the rules of Blood on the Clocktower. And in that meeting, Stephen said to me, if ever since I saw that show, I thought if my game ever gets to the point where we can do a live stage show, I want John Gracey to host it. I was like, well, you've got him. He's right here and he loves his game. So yeah, we started talking and they commissioned us to kind of give Blood on the Clocktower the Werewolf Live treatment, which is essentially to boil it down to its barest essentials so that an audience can understand it in as short a time as possible without sacrificing the essential quality of the game.
Yeah.
Which is quite tricky to do.
Really, really tough.
I mean, much harder with Blood on the Clocktower than Werewolf.
Yeah.
Because there's so many more rules.
But even with Werewolf, we used to play it with a seer as the only special character.
And if anyone doesn't know, the seer is a character who gets to learn the role of a player once per night. So they point to a player and I'll tell them if they're a werewolf or not.
And
it's like the simplest addition possible.
But the number of seers who knew who the werewolves were and did not put up a fight and just took that knowledge to their grave.
It was baffling.
It was constant and it made my blood boil.
And
I was livid every time.
And so I was like, I've just got to make the rules more simple. So then I had to say, if you are the seer, at any point you can say your information.
You're the seer.
Just bear in mind, you could be a werewolf, because obviously anyone can say they're anyone, but keep your information out. And they'd all nod, and then they'd see both werewolves and just sit there. I'm like, okay, if you get this vote wrong, the werewolves are going to win. So if anyone's got any information to share, wink, now's a good time. And they'd be like, no, zip. And then the werewolves would win.
It would just kill me now. I think a lot of people just kind of felt like this might be a trap in some way, even from
they
you.
Must have done, yeah.
Because even sometimes, if the werewolves win, for example, John asks them to stand up and give me a howl, and they'll just be like, and he'd be like, come on, give us a howl. And they're like, am I allowed to? Am I not going to ruin it?
But weirdly, now they're fine with it. That's never happened like in the last couple of years. But that was a thing for ages.
Yeah, it was.
So basically, for Blood on the Clocktower, we had to make it super simple. And we did a first run at Edinburgh, and it went really, really well. We really pared it down. We took loads of rolls out. We basically used a Teensyville script, which for anyone who's not familiar is like a version of the game, I think, for five players plus.
5 to 7, right?
Yeah, something like that, where you have one demon, one minion, and then a specific number of
They don't know who each other are?
Yeah, I think in Teensyville, evil doesn't know who each other are. But what was really cool, we had a great Fringe run, and then we did some shows for South by Southwest in Sydney, which is a big festival that did over there, which was really cool, and Stephen saw one of those. And then we kind of got him on board. Essentially, he's designed like a bespoke version of Blood on the Clocktower for the live show, which is really similar to the main show, but we've designed our own characters. So the demon is now just called the demon. The minion is now called the minion. Like, we haven't used tokens from the game unless they're exactly the same, like the chef is exactly the same. And it just meant that once we had his blessing to tinker slightly with the core of the game, because we were really worried we don't want to like make any changes that he didn't like. Once he was kind of happy for us to make changes, then we could tweak the experience to suit a live show. And once we could do that, made just tiny changes. Like, now we had to explain drunkenness every time. Like, one of you's the drunk, but you're not going to get the drunk token, and blah, blah. And people at home, the drunk just gets like, they think they're a good character, but they get wrong information from the storyteller. Whereas now the minion character, their ability is they pick one player at the very start of the game, and that player becomes drunk. So it's essentially poisoning. But it just made, with small changes like that, it just streamlined it all down. And it just made it easier to explain.
I think because people always, we went to Ravenswoodstock earlier this year.
Which is a social deduction conference, but it's really a Blood on the Clocktower conference.
It was really fun, but at that point, I'd probably only played maybe 5 games of Clocktower. So really not very many. And people always were like, oh, well, you would know that blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, no, I don't know, because obviously they just assume. And I just wasn't that across it. And
I mean, it's really overwhelming.
But watching the show helped me understand, like, oh, this is just a puzzle, but some of the data that you're getting is corrupted, and you have to figure out what is corrupted and why. So, like, that was a really good entry point for me. But I think ultimately, like, not very many people are coming to that show who don't already know what it is.
Yeah, definitely some. And we would often talk to people afterwards who would be dragged there by friends.
Yeah.
Who would understand to varying degrees as we fix the show. But yeah, it's a much harder on-ramp.
Whereas Werewolf is so much more like anyone could show up, and it doesn't really matter if you don't follow the rules, because the rules are just a platform to be funny.
Yeah, and we've really, like, with Werewolf, it's basically an improv comedy show with a game in the background. And it's really interesting how much you weight either of those scales, the scales being the gameplay or the comedy, massively affects the show. And if we did one show at Ravenswoodstock where the previous day we talked about trying some different roles, and we tried to have essentially a drunk seer. So we had 2 seers in the game, and we decided beforehand that one of them would get the wrong information. This is in Werewolf. And so we tried to make it a bit more Blood on the Clocktower, because it was a Blood on the Clocktower conference. So essentially one of the seers got wrong information, and they didn't know which was which. And it went from this quite fun, fast-paced comedy show to, like, solving a puzzle, and not in a good way, as they were just like, well, we don't have time to be funny because we've got to figure this out. And it was like, right, this is what happens if you put too many mechanics in a comedy show. But equally, if you put too much comedy in, which doesn't usually happen, but if essentially people don't care anymore, if they're just like pissing about on stage, then suddenly the stakes are gone of winning the game. And then that's also not good. Yeah,
you really need to. And we always say with guests, the best guests for Werewolf are the ones who are, like, invested enough in the game that they care about the outcome, but not so invested that they'll get annoyed if they lose, which has happened on a small number of occasions.
I mean, it's just basically my approach to games. So, like, I get very, I'm known for my cool, calm and collected gameplay now. I'm known for unraveling on the channel. And it's because I really care about winning, but I don't really mind if I don't. But by caring about winning, it's like, that's how you make it matter.
That's why anyone would want to watch or play.
Yeah,
is that you have to be like,
yeah,
because then if someone goes, oh, it doesn't matter, just kill, I don't care, just kill me.
It's the kiss of death.
It's poison in the show.
Tilly was playing Werewolf Live at the Expo, and she said that towards the start of the show because she was very tired, and I just went, please, Tilly, I need you to care. Tilly, you're my friend, you have to care. And she was like, all right, John, because it's you, I'll care. But I can't normally say that to comedians because I don't have that relationship with them. So if they say it, I'm just like, oh no. God damn it, everyone else is going to have to work 10 times as hard.
Yeah.
So is it comedians doing the blood on the clock tower as well?
Yes. So with Werewolf, most of the time it's just all comedians, apart from at the Games Expo where we do half comedians, half audience, just because the Games Expo crowd knows the game and it's a fun combo. But Blood on the Clock Tower is 5 players, and then me as the host, as the 6th person on stage, and they're all comedians who we've briefed beforehand on the game.
So luckily... also from the channel, Rosie and Sully are also in Edinburgh. Yeah. So we kind of had them as we're kind of like team captains sort of thing, like Alan. What's his face?
Alan Davis from QI. Yeah.
Yes. So they were on every performance except for Rosie booked one off. She's like, oh, got a family member coming. I want to have that night off. Cool, no problem. And then on the night. One time Sullivan just didn't show up and he didn't answer his phone, and then I got a voice memo about 10 minutes before the end of the show saying, I went for a nap and I overslept. I slept through my alarm. Yep. But very luckily Mara, also from the channel, was in the audience that night.
So Mara was
just stepped in.
Mara was going to be on stage the next night, so she'd come the night before to be like, just see what the show's like, so I can get a sense when I'm in it. And then she didn't get that chance because we just pulled her on stage and said, Mara, you're going to have to be Sullivan.
So that was pretty fun. But aside from that, they were on which was really great because it just meant there were 2 people at all times who knew what was going on and who could help sort of guide the newer players. And we took from our pool of Werewolf players.
Yeah, ones who are maybe slightly more into the strategy side. Because you need a bit more of a gamer brain. Well, not a gamer brain. You need a bit more of a kind of... I don't know what the word is. It's not
I guess a bit strategic. So, quite tellingly, I think there are a surprising number of comedians who are former lawyers. And several of them, Alice Fraser and Josh Glantz, were both regulars. Both regulars on Werewolf, and were both very regular on Blood on the Clock Tower as well.
Yeah, and both former lawyers,
Yeah, so it's I think that it points to the kind of people that are kind of, the right candidates to play this show. But we were really selective about who we asked. But people like Tom Crosby, who is also in the Clock Tower community, he did it Big once nerd. Or twice. Sam C as well. He loves Clock Tower. Yeah. So we had some people who we already knew would enjoy it and were already like into the game. And then other people were like, they will get it. But we kind of had to be quite strategic about who we asked.
And just as a note on performance, so I've done the Werewolf Live show. I mean, it must be close to 1,000 times, right? Certainly around at least 1,000 games within the show. Maybe. And the show is usually 2 or 3 games. Clock Tower I've done maybe like 20 shows, and it is one of the most demanding things I've ever had to do, because you when I'm running Werewolf, like my goal when I'm playing any game is that everyone's having a really fun time. It's really important to me that everyone's enjoying themselves. So I don't really mind if I win or lose as long as everyone is kind of engaged in it. And so when I'm running Werewolf, it's the same thing. The audience have to be really engaged and, laughing along and understanding the game if they're new. And also the players need to be made sure that they feel safe and that they feel confident and comfortable making jokes. So all of that. And then I need to tell the story of the game and also the rules. But because Werewolf, the rules are pretty light, that's all very easy. But with Clock Tower, because the rules are relatively complex and I'm holding a physical grim and I have a cane as well, which I use as the handle of the clock, which is part of the voting, it is the most demanding. It's weird. Acting it's not acting, it's hosting. Performing is not that hard a job. Sorry, all actors, it's not that. It requires skill, but it's not super hard. But running Blood on the Clock Tower was one of the first times where I'm I've done a day's work with this show. Yeah. I have to hold the mechanics of the game in my mind. I have to
explain it to an audience.
Explain the rules.
Who might not know anything
in a very condensed version, without missing out anything, but also making it really quick. Because if you take too long, everyone gets bored. Because it's a 10 o'clock show, and if people are drunk, they've got like a couple of minutes to be hooked in. They're out. All of that. Then I have to introduce the guests to make sure that they're all happy, they're all safe, they understand the rules. And then I have to tell the story of the village, which is always relatively similar, but got to make sure I do that. And then run the game. And it's only when the first day is happening where I can finally go like, all right, John, you got a couple of minutes just to get your head together while they talk. Yeah. And then as soon as that's done, you're running the vote. And then it's the night time. You've got to remember what happened in the daytime because that person's poisoned and you've got to do this and that. Yeah. And the audience are all listening in. And if I make a mistake, they'll be there to correct me, which is really helpful. But it is fucking hard work.
Watching you do that show is like the sort of classic, duck gliding along the water, but underneath it's like brrr. Yeah, you can really I can see it. I don't know how clear it is to like your average viewer, but I can tell how hard you're working. But you do it. You hold it all magnificently, darling.
It is like I'm going to move the mic close to my laptop so you can hear. This is what my laptop is currently doing right now, which is making a horrible whirring sound because it's overheating. That is what my brain does every single Clocktower show, as it is just like overclocking in my head. Pun very much intended, but hopefully appearing like I know what I'm doing and that I'm not shitting my pants. Yeah. I assume we're allowed to swear on this podcast. It's too late.
So yeah, sure. Why not? I don't mind.
Oh, what's Craig going to do? Edit it? I don't think so.
Never. Good. Drop a few more bombs. I don't mind.
I wonder what I would have to say for Craig to edit. How bad would my opinions have to get? I'm not going to test it, but I'm just wondering.
I'm good. You can
I've
keep
got
going.
Some interesting thoughts on politics that I want to share now.
What was I going to say? I was going to ask a question. Yes, I was. So would you say is Clocktower Live is obviously more stressful and more difficult than Clocktower on No Rolls Barred when you're running those not staged, but the recorded shows, the shows.
Yeah, they're really stressful in a different way. And it was weird because for quite a while, the only Clocktower I really played was filmed content, which is so different from normal content. But for the similar reasons that I was saying, where you want to make sure that the game is really fun and that people understand what's going on, but you also want to tell as many jokes as possible. You want to make sure that you are playing the game as well as you can, because no one likes it if you get it wrong. And believe me, they say it in the comments, and they think you have. No one likes you to get the game wrong, but also you want to be funny, you want to be including other people and all of that. All of which is fine unless you're the demon. Being the demon in filmed Clocktower is the worst thing you can possibly get, because if you die early, which is good sometimes because it means that the good team have done well, you just feel like a piece of shit. Because you're like, right, sorry, we're going to have to film that again. That was only an hour of content. Like, we'll put that in as an extra, but we're going to have to do another game. And it's the worst feeling in the world. So filmed Clocktower is deeply stressful. And it was, I don't know when the first time I played just a normal game in the living room was, but it was quite far into having played Clocktower. And I was like, oh, this is really fun. When you don't have to be funny and also not lose. Like, you can just die immediately as the demon, and it's absolutely fine. You just re-rack. So filming Clocktower is a really interesting experience and really, really fun. Like, it's different, very different from the live show and very different from playing it normally. But unless you're the demon, being the minion is ideal because you can just fuck about. You can, if things go wrong, it's not a problem. And being a townsfolk is absolutely fine. But being the demon on filmed content is rough whenever it comes up. It's actually very rare that I've been the demon, but whenever it does, I'm like, oh no. Really
so there are a lot of episodes on the cutting room floor then that have just like ended immediately and gone, nah, okay, film it again.
I think they always get turned into like Patreon stuff, or there was one really early on. I was really proud of it. I managed to, I was the dreamer and I looked at Isaac and got that he was the Vortox or something else. I can't remember what happened, but basically mechanically it was fairly obvious that Isaac was the Vortox and we killed him really early on. And he was so bummed out, and I didn't really get why until I was a demon later on. But he got killed first day, I think, or possibly second day. But that episode does exist, and I think we just did 2. It just means the shoots go on for longer, and everyone's like, oh no, we're going to have lunch.
But like that is a tricky thing because you've got like this space that you've hired out for a set amount of time. You've got
particularly for the in-person ones,
crew that are rostered on for this many hours.
Yeah, the in-person ones are, for that particular thing, are horrible. They're so much fun.
External pressures.
Yeah, the pressure on a filmed in-person one is really high, particularly for Series 2. Because Series 1, we kind of didn't really know what it was going to be. But Series 2, there was so much pressure, and each episode is a new character and all of that. So a lot of stress. But I think they came out really well. And they're like 2 or 3 out already. I don't watch them, but I'm sure they will.
So, what is your favourite Clocktower character?
Someone asked me at the expo actually, and they were getting us to sign their poster, I think it was. Oh no, I had a notebook with our name and favourite character, and I'm going to say what I said then because I think this is still true. The Al-Hadiki which is a demon.
I haven't even heard of this.
Yeah, it's like it's experimental, but it's like a later one. But basically, you get to choose 3 players, and in the night they all get asked individually, do they want to live or die? And if all of them say they want to die, that's fine. Or if 1 or 2 say they want to die, that's fine. But if all 3 say they want to live, they all die.
Ooh.
It's so fun. And the first time I did it was with Kickstarter backers of Series 1, I think. We filmed a bunch of games with them. People that I didn't really know. And I just picked the 3 quietest people around the group, and they were all super powerful roles. They all said they didn't want to die. They all died night 1. And I felt like the coolest guy in the world. I think I got it. I think I've been that demon twice. Weirdly, I think all the Kickstarter games I was evil, and it was a delight. But normally in the content, I'm good. But Al-Hadiki was so fun. And because there's so much of a game within that demon, I think that's why it's my favourite.
Interesting. I haven't maybe played enough times to have played enough characters enough times to say this is my favourite, but I will say I have been the imp a few times, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and absolutely demolished John.
Yeah.
Which was really fun.
I went through a period where I really wanted Viv to like the game because she wasn't really having loads of fun playing it. I was like,
particularly because like the first few times I played was with all the NRB gang who'd all played like many times together, and I kind of joined in, not knowing how to play, not having watched any of the episodes or anything like that. Just I didn't know anything about it. I was like, I'm really scared. I don't know what I'm doing.
It's really overwhelming.
And actually, I think I was the imp like my second or third game.
This is right. I think it was because I wanted to practice storytelling because we run events. We run Clocktower in a castle where we hire out a fancy castle in South London and people come and play Clocktower. Yeah. And I was going to run some games. They hadn't run them that many, so I was like, I really need to practice before this. So we needed the numbers. So I was like, Viv, I know you don't particularly want to play. But Viv played, but Stephen actually said this interesting thing when we were working on the show, which is the best groups are ones where everyone is of the same skill level. It doesn't matter what that skill level is. Like if everyone's beginners, it's absolutely fine because they're kind of learning together. But if you've got like really expert players and then a couple of beginners, it's quite hard for the game to click because they're kind of operating on different levels.
Yeah.
But my goal early on was just to make sure Viv was having a good time because I wanted you to enjoy yourself and also to want to play again. And then the time I knew I no longer had to do that was we were playing in this very room, and it was a few days in, and I was just like, the one thing I know, guys, is that Viv is definitely good. And then I think you're right with the demon or the minion.
I was the demon.
Yeah, you wiped the floor with us.
And I was really proud of myself. I did a little star pass on the sort of penultimate night to my minion who was like a brand new player. But I was like, there's no one's going to think that it's her.
Yeah. It was just a great moment of like, I don't have to worry about Viv anymore because she completely fooled me. And also, I was very proud of you. You did very well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Sorry, we've been going for so long that the sun is down.
Yeah. My favourite character is the Mercephiles.
Oh, that's fun.
What's yours?
I
don't usually play.
I don't play. I'm a terrible storyteller. When I do play, I like to be the mutant.
Oh, really?
I love them. We played a game with our friends once online, and the entire game, the only thing I said for the entire game was, I'm definitely a townsfolk.
Great.
So anyone who asked me any question, I went, I am definitely a townsfolk. Oh, no, that was it. I was pretending. I was bluffing, wasn't I? I was a demon. And I won the game because all I just said was, I am definitely a townsfolk. And so the mutant is a beautiful role. To be the mutant, I don't mind. or to be bluffing as the mutant. But the mutant, I just find is really you can just mess around with him.
Because if I'm a storyteller and you were a mutant and you kept saying that, I would absolutely kill you. Because that, for me, is you signalling that you are the mutant. If you're the imp, that's great. Then you definitely wouldn't die. But that, to me, is you communicating to everyone that you are the mutant. Because why else would you say that?
True.
I'm very strict on madness.
So this is a new topic now. This is the madness conversation. So if someone was Serenovus mad and just came out with their information, as in, I've been Serenovus, blah, 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 would you as a storyteller kill them?
Probably would, but there's also a way that you make them look evil and that the Serenovus is a lie. So I think there's a reason not to. But I usually make an example of the first person that tests me. So there was a guy at the last Castle event, I forget his name, but he basically just completely said his stuff. And it's like, if I was made mad, I would say this. And I was like, yeah, you're dead immediately. And then everyone else was a little bit more careful after that. But, it's the spirit of the law, not the letter. Like, if I think people are really trying really hard not to break madness, I wouldn't kill them. But if I think they're testing me, I'll kill them instantly. Unless I want to frame them and make them look like they're lying.
Yeah, I just find that some people do come and because we have some people in our group that are a bit chaotic and they will go, yep, I've been Serenovus just because... But to me, they're giving, like, I would sort of probably maybe not kill them immediately, be like, well, okay, well, you've just basically told the truth, so you've given away all the right information. So if I kill you now, everyone knows there's a Serenovus in place. They know someone's going to be mad. So, but if I don't, then potentially now you're looking... I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a weird one.
Yeah, I think calling someone's bluff can be really helpful because if everyone thinks they're talking shit, then that's more powerful, I think.
Yeah.
I think madness is the bit of clocktower that most people
struggle with.
Yeah.
Most people get annoyed with the madness. If they get madness killed, we've had it a couple of times on Discord where we've had or on the app. We've had a game that's ended due to madness, and then that person's gone, yep, I need to go now. It's late. I'm going to bed. Bye-bye.
Oh, interesting.
I was like, okay. So sometimes I'm like, if they're playing, I'm like, I'm not going to put a madness character in my script today.
That's fair, yeah. Everyone's got their own kind of buttons, haven't they, that you want to try and use. But in general, I think as long as you're clear up front with how you run it, I think that's fine. And if people fall foul of that, at least they've known your parameters. I think that's all you can do. And if they don't like the way that you storytell them, they can find another group. But I think you've got to be consistent with what you think is the right way to do it.
Correct.
This has been a really interesting thing that I've, as a newer player, we were just talking about it the other day, like, because I haven't played with that many different storytellers, but just sort of discovering, like, how varied that role is and how open to kind of manipulation it is by the person playing it.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
It's a really interesting part of the game.
I think it's probably the most exciting element of it. Yeah. The fact that the power that storyteller has to change the quality of the game is both incredibly exciting and quite scary because a bad storyteller could ruin a game, I guess. I don't think I've ever played with a bad storyteller, but has the capacity to, right? If they get it wrong.
Or if it's not like your taste.
Yeah, I suppose, just mean, if they do it in a way that you don't like, it could be really tough. So, I don't know.
It's quite difficult to learn as well because it's very easy to make mistakes, I think, sometimes as a new storyteller. And then,
for sure.
Like, my worry is that you've just engaged people in 2 hours of playing and you've messed up on a rule and then they're like, that was 2 hours of play.
Yeah, I think
the other thing I find is that people are so desperate to jump into storytelling, Sex and Violence or Bad Moon Rising or some elaborate experimental script and not do the basics. If you can't do the basics well enough, don't do the rest.
I don't know why anyone plays anything other than Trouble Brewing. I think it's so good. I think it's the perfect script.
Yeah,
and I do like all the others, and we often play some weird ones and never else barred. But the base 3 are just like, how are you bored of those? They're so good.
Yeah,
suppose people have played hundreds of games.
Yeah.
I guess at that point.
We're talking to people on the weekend of like, I've played like 400 games, and it's like, okay, maybe you're bored of it. That's fine.
Yeah, once you've got really nasty with it, then you need to find
you need to find some kicks.
Yeah, you need to find some kinkier shit. I'm still very much into the vanilla base, and I think Trouble Brewing is just perfection.
Well, we did an episode. We did a game of Trouble Brewing that I story told, and I did nothing. I did absolutely nothing to the script. No one had any like really off information or anything like that. Everyone had perfect information essentially, bar a few. Yeah. But they just talked themselves into a circle. They had the solve immediately, and they were like, "No, that can't be the way."
I would say the existence of the drunk as a possibility is just adds so much to the game, because every single thing you think, you're like, unless any of you is drunk.
We have a little thing with the live show where basically, because that comes up so often, blah, 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 unless I'm drunk, John tells the audience on the first night, so when someone says, unless I'm drunk, then you all have to say,
too many sherries.
Which was something that Reggie came up with, who is Reggie... who works for the Pandemonium Institute, who also produces the show.
Yeah, so we worked really closely with Reg. Me, Viv, and Reg basically built the version of Clocktower Live that exists right now.
But she's like our Clocktower guru, because she has known Stephen and Evan for like 10 years or whatever, and was there right at the start. So, she's also very funny, and she was just something like, I don't know, too many sherries. And we're like, that's the one.
Yeah, that's our catchphrase.
Yeah.
So the first time a new player is on stage and goes, I think you might be evil unless I'm drunk. And then the whole audience, 100 people go, too many sherries. I'm like, what the fuck was that? It's great. And I refuse to explain it to them until afterwards.
So have you got any other ideas in the pipeline after this game, Kickstart? You got...
Well, Viv, I've got a 2-player, strategy game, like a tile flipping strategy game that I'm working on. But Viv, we were on holiday for Viv's birthday the other day at a lovely spa.
And we played, we brought Patchwork, which I hadn't played before, and we were playing that. And I'm sure this is why I thought of it, but I was drifting off to sleep, and I got an idea of a word-based, so like bananagrams. I play a lot of bananagrams. My mum is a big word game fiend.
So Viv's mum was staying with us for 6 weeks. She's from Australia and was over for a long time. And we played so much bananagrams. And Viv's mum is an absolute beast when it comes to bananagrams.
Yeah. I love word games, but she's so just good. Obsessed.
But she also knows all the tiny 2-letter words. She plays a lot of words with friends on her phone. So she knows all J-O and X-I and Q-I.
Well, it's a letter in the Hebrew alphabet. We're like, fuck off, Mum.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
She wins every time. Well, not every time, but...
No, we do. We have beaten her occasionally. Anyway.
She's an absolute girl.
So bananagrams is all in my head, and so is Patchwork. And so I had this idea of something like you get a random allocation of a letter on a little grid somewhere, that's generated elsewhere, and you have to put, say, A, on 2D or something, and then you draw a category, say maybe it's animals or something, and then you've got to form a grid of words around that, and then maybe it's we haven't play tested it yet, but something like whoever gets the most, fills up the most of their board or something like that, kind of like in Patchwork.
I think it would be different. My pitch is we have different goals each time, and you flip over the goal, and it's the most short words, or whoever writes the single longest word, or things like that. So you get a goal that the group has, but then you each have a limitation, which is, as Viv said, a random letter that goes on this space of your board. So basically all the things we're coming up with are along the lines of They're very accessible, fun, family friendly, kind of quasi party games, but not it's not like Jackbox level rowdiness. They're kind of chill, fun party games for the family that you kind of bust out at any time. Probably towards the start or middle of the night. But actually, we've had a lot of fun games if when everyone's really pissed at the end of the night and just wants to have a laugh and do some trivia. So it actually kind of works in all slots.
Cool.
So will there be any more history mysteries?
Yes. Thank you for asking. Great questions, Becky. These are just like setting me up. So we've one. So first one is Egypt, second is medieval, and the third is ancient Rome. And it has been all the stuff's been designed like a year ago, but we've added so much stuff in. So we have twin protagonists in this one. So the games are all voice acted, and you're operating with these characters that you interact with by answering puzzles, and they'll kind of feed you the next part of the story via an app, a fully voiced app. And this game has twin protagonists. It's across like loads of eras of Rome. They're one of the protagonists, so they're twins, like a kind of Romulus and Remus analog. One of them is stationed in the Forum, so their game is all about diplomacy and kind of stealth and sneaking around, and the other is on the battlefield, so there's all kind of military strategy. So it's basically it's twice the size of a normal game because it's two games in one, and you're upgrading your military units with stickers and adding new like abilities to your generals, because we wanted to do like a military strategy sim and a diplomacy sim. We put too much stuff in, guys. I'm going to be honest. It's overstuffed.
It sounds good, though. It sounds good.
It'll be great for you guys, but as a design thing, it's been a nightmare. But basically, Matt is just toiling away at doing the artwork. So we do have I think we're going to do that on Kickstarter, but we don't want to like do them at the same time. But essentially, people will just be pre-ordering it because the game 1 and 2 is ready, and 3, I hope will be ready this year.
The other thing with History Mysteries, in terms of that sort of production schedule, is that unlike having the kind of upfront funds from Kickstarter, you've just always kind of bootstrapped it and like gone, we can afford to buy 500 copies. And now we've sold those, so now we can afford 1,000.
And actually, the Games Expo is one of the places that allows us to survive for the rest of the year, because we will sell loads of copies there, and then that gives us the funds to place a larger order, which we then have to sell all of in order to have any money, but at least we're able to order in bulk. So we managed to do a small medieval order before the expo, because it took a while, but we've now got like proper box covers. I think when you bought them, they might have been in just the big envelopes. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, it was just an envelope.
So now they've got these lovely covers, because we were speaking to various board game cafes and they said, these are great, but we can't sell them in the shop if they're in an envelope, because no one's going to see it on the shelf and no one's going to care about a plain envelope. So now we've got these lovely like ornate boxes, so you can kind of see that in a shop and I want that. So we sold out at the expo, which is really nice, and we'll be able to put all that money into making more games. But it's a really kind of stop-start thing. I'm sure everyone you've spoken to who makes games has said the same thing, that you need the money before you have the money often, because you've got to print the games in order to sell the games, which is why Kickstarter is so good, because you can pre-sell and then use that money to buy the print run and all of that. So the short answer is we're getting there, but it has been a long road. But it will be our best game. I'm very confident in saying that. I think it's going to be amazing.
Cool.
Yes. Cool. So we always do a board game menu on our podcast. I say always. We did for about 6 episodes, maybe. So always with a caveat. But we're bringing it back.
I love it. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to go first with their menu, I don't mind.
So I'm going to assume you're talking starter, main course, dessert. Are there any other like aspects to the menu that I'm missing? Have we got like a side dish?
Starter is the sort of entry kind of little fillery game, and then big main course, nom nom nom, and then a nice souffle.
You don't have to eat the game.
Souffle, yes.
No.
We want a crunchy one, because that's a word.
Lovely, chewy, crunchy game. Do you want to go first?
I'm thinking.
I think my starter. I'm trying to think the most fun. I really like for years it would have been coup, because I just love busting out coup with friends. Yeah. It's so easy to learn, and you can play it just again and again and again, because it's so dependent. I love games where the depth of the game hinges on the group as opposed to the rules of the game. Like the ability to betray is just infinite, because you can just second guess each other again and again, and second, third, fourth guess. So possibly Seku. I played. Is it called Dots? The little dog game with the dice.
Yeah,
I think it's called Dots.
Spots.
I was called Dots. Spots. I just love. It's so cute. It's a little dice rolling game. You're trying to get the dots to match the spots on your little dog cards. And you draw a card which allows you to do certain things, like get new dice or cash in your dogs and all this other stuff. I love it. It's gorgeous. The art's really cute. So is it called Dots or Spots?
Spots.
I can't get the name right, but Spots is my entree. I think it's beautiful. Not only visual, but the design I think is very beautiful, very elegant. I love rolling dice as well. It feels really nice. So I'll go Spots. Viv has disappeared. I don't know where she's gone. So I'm going to carry straight on. I think I
was looking at our board game collection.
Okay. Do you want to do your starter or shall I do my main?
No, you keep going.
I think my main... I'm trying to... this is something You know what? No, I'm going to say it because we had friends over the other day. We played this. Nemesis is going to be my main.
Yes.
Oh, I love it. I backed it on Kickstarter years ago because I just saw it on Shut Up and Sit Down and thought, I like the movie Alien, I'll back this. And didn't think it'd be any good, or didn't know that it'd be good, and it turns out it's incredible. I've only played my copy once because I was going to other people's houses who've already played theirs, and then the pandemic happened, and so I couldn't play it. But I just think it's so elegant. It's so hard. I've never won, although I've only played a couple of times. I love that if people haven't played it, it's kind of Alien the movie, but in board game form. And it does this great thing where you have a choice of... I'm trying to remember which version this is, because we played it on the channel recently. We played the new one, Retaliation, which is really good. I don't think that video's out yet, but the original Nemesis, you get two objectives, right? Like the good one and the corporate one.
Yeah, the corporate one and your personal one, yeah.
Yeah, and these objectives, for those who haven't played it, could be like make sure everyone gets home safe, or they could be make sure player 2 eats shit. Like it's so fun. So you can kind of choose how evil you want to be, but you don't have to decide right away. Or do you? In Nemesis, do you decide at the start, or do you...
No, it's you decide. You get when the first alien comes out, you discard one of the cards.
And they do this beautiful thing in Retaliation where you don't have to discard at any point until you choose to, and Retaliation is the newest one in the series. It's more of an aliens, as opposed to Alien, you're all Marines. But the first person to choose to discard the one they don't want gets like loads of cards, and you get like 4 cards if you're the first player to do it, 3 if you're the second, and 2 if you're the third. So you're really incentivized to get in ahead of other people and decide your objective. I won't spoil what I chose on the video, but I chose... I'm not going to say it's very. You should definitely watch that one. It's a lot of fun. But, so Nemesis, I think, is my main course because it's so meaty, but it's not. Once you've set it up, it's not that hard, but it's substantial and it's really challenging. But it's not that complicated. But it's great. I love it so much. Should I do my dessert?
Yeah, go for it.
Dessert's an interesting one. I'm trying to think what I. So this is like you're at the end of the night. You're a bit drunk. You don't want anything too complicated. I mean, the last few times we've played, we have ended the night with CDSK, which is this French trivia game. We bought it to test because we were playing other trivia games when we were designing You Know It, and it's I like it. I don't love it. It's basically you get told what the topic is going to be before you answer the question, and you have to decide from 1 to 10 how hard you want the question to be. So you're kind of backing yourself to be an expert on the topic, which sounds really cool. But often, like, a 4 will be really hard and a 7 will be quite easy. Like, I found the difficulty really hard to measure because it's all relative. It's all kind of personal. And so too many times I would lose on one where I knew a harder one. And I found that really frustrating, which is just really hard to design around. So I think the game is really flawed, but I had a lot of fun with it. I suppose I can't really pick it, but I just have very fond memories of being really drunk and playing that at like 1 in the morning.
That was fun.
But I feel like I should pick a game that I actually really like. Dessert game. I'll choose Smart 10. That's probably going to be one of yours, actually, wasn't it?
I wasn't, but I love Smart 10.
You know what I'm going to choose? We were playing this with Adam the other day. It's probably not even a dessert game. It's just really fun. We were really drunk playing it. Is it called Thunder Road?
I was going to have Thunder Road.
So I don't want to take all of it.
It's okay.
All right, I don't want to take any of it, so I'm just going to take Sushi Go. I like Sushi Go.
I was thinking about Sushi Go.
Oh, fucking hell. All right.
We play a lot of games together.
All right,
so
you know it. I'm going to choose You Know It.
Yeah, You Know It.
Designed by Invisible Typewriter game. It actually is a really good end of the night game.
Yeah.
It's a very fun trivia game.
I think it's good for an entree or a dessert, personally.
Yeah, because if you're a bit drunk, you get a bit sloppy with your betting. You're like, oh, you don't know it, and you can throw your bets on people. You probably get it wrong, and then they'll get the point, and it's great. So yeah, good to play slightly messy. So just to reiterate, because I said a lot of games, I'm going to start with Coup as my starter, Nemesis as my main course, and You Know It as my dessert.
Nice.
Okay. I will say my starter is I I think Poetry for Neanderthals is fun.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great show.
I do really enjoy it. My problem with it is actually that there just aren't enough cards. Like, we've only maybe played it like 5 or 6 times, but already I'm like, oh, I've come across these cards already. So
yeah, I mean, it was our go-to party game for as long as we had new cards, and now it's like, oh, we really want to keep playing this, but we now know the deck.
Yeah,
such a shame.
So, but I think it's a really great game. I think
it's so
really
elegant.
Fun. It's probably also a very good dessert one, but it's a good one to get going.
I think it's the perfect warm-up. I think it's a great show.
Played Thunder Road recently. Absolutely loved it. I think it helped that I won. So I think that's my main.
I've lost every single time, and I still love it. So,
but also on games that I often win, Ticket to Ride. It's an oldie but a goodie.
When we were nomads, Viv got really into the app of it and just play against like high-level computer players. So Viv just developed an optimum strategy, and it's an absolute unit now at Ticket to Ride. Horrifying.
So yeah, I do love Ticket to Ride. And then, dessert. I mean, there are so many. We almost exclusively play like small box games. Like, we don't really have big ones. So we generally go with the Sushi Goes and the that kind of thing. I really love cockroach poker.
Oh, that's fun.
I think that's a good dessert. It's so stupid.
That's a great show. I want to give special mention to Patchwork that we played. I've only played it twice. Once against my 7-year-old nephew, and he absolutely owned me at it. And then the other day with Viv. And
once
Viv
against your 36-year-old wife.
36-year-old wife, although she was 35 at the time, but she still won. But I think Patchwork's really elegant. I really like it. And Hanamakoji as well, just a beautiful little 2-player Japanese. You're like currying the favour of various geisha, but it's just really clever. It's one of those games where you actually don't get to make many choices. Your actions are often determined by what the other player does, which is really nice. But you kind of give the other player, I think it's called I Pick, You Choose. So like you give the other player a choice and they make a choice, and you're desperately hoping that they don't pick the one that they do, and then they pick it. It's really, really smart.
I would also like to give a shout out to, is it Flick of Faith?
Oh, yeah.
We play that with our nephew at drafts. I don't know. Have you guys played it?
No.
It's really fun. It's like you're all playing like gods of different like mythologies, and so you all got slightly different powers. But the main thing is that you have these little sort of
worshippers,
this little sort of token things that you have to flick. The board is a mat, and you have to flick them from an edge onto, like, there are 4 islands on the board, and so it's kind of a dexterity game.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Yeah, it's really fun. That's a really good
Joe
name as well.
Joe at drafts is great at teaching games, and we were there with our nephew the first time we'd ever been to drafts, and he just suggested it, and it's really, really fun.
Yeah.
That's a nice kind of, that could be any, it's quite a big game physically, but it's very easy.
It doesn't take long to play. Yeah.
I'm also going to add as a side dish, which I know is not a mention. The expansion. Because you said Thunder Road, the expansion to Thunder Road has this really cool like juggernaut truck that just like powers straight ahead and like can't really turn, but it's super tough. There's just loads of fun. That game
is a great game,
rules.
And like when we were playing it, we were all so invested, and it was like real proper like cheering and screaming when you're at the end.
And it's one of those games where it so recreates the thing that it's trying to recreate. Like I like a Euro game where you're like crunching away at your own engine, but I love a bit of Ameritrash where the theme is really strong. But if you can get a game that does both, it's like, well, why choose? Have the really strong mechanics of a Euro game with the really strong theming of Ameritrash. And I feel like that's what Thunder Road does, where it's so mechanically sound, but the theming is so evocative that you totally feel like you're racing down this crazy highway. And then someone hits a thing, oil slick, and spins out and hits another car and dies, and they're just gone. It's like, yes, this is what it should be. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous game.
Nice. Cool. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this joyous episode of Getting to Games on Air. Where can people find you if you want to be found?
Crucially,
not in the house. Like,
I'm in an alleyway at the moment.
I guess Twitter's probably the easiest, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm at John Gracey on Twitter, and you can find everything on there. If you go to Kickstarter and search for You Know It, it's just gone up. Or has it gone down? Has it gone down?
I think it's gone
No,
up.
it's gone up. Oh, thank God. The number changed, but it's gone up. If you search for You Know It on Kickstarter, you can back our game. It's 10 days left. It's a really, really fun trivia party game with a bit of bluffing and betting in, and we're really, really proud of it. There's all sorts of cool backer rewards. You can play Werewolf with me. You can get a signed copy. You can get your name on the box. There's still a couple of those left. That's the really high tier one. You can play.
John will get a neck tattoo.
Yeah.
Or if you keep saying it, it might happen. It won't. So, I need to think of something as good, which is going to be very tough. But so please back You Know It on Kickstarter if you haven't already, and you can follow me on Twitter at John Gracey.
Yes.
And I've got one. A tattoo of Viv's face on your face.
Oh, that's very powerful.
Yes, beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah, nice.
That will definitely happen. Where can I find you, George?
You can find me. I'm on Twitter at vivegan41. And I'm on Instagram at Vivalog, Vivalogue, like a dialogue.
The other place, we stream a lot on Twitch. So if you go to twitch.tv/John Gracey.
You'll find us there.
Follow us there.
Absolutely
we stream,
swimming in in-jokes.
Yeah, it's a lovely community. we stream like probably once every couple of weeks. So it's not super regular, but it's really fun. It's really chill.
We sing songs.
We sing a bunch of songs. We did a stream last night. So we take requests. But it's really just we hang out and chat. We watch YouTube videos. It's really lovely. And we will be doing a 24-hour stream to coincide with the end of You Know It, which I'm already dreading because I'm going to be so tired, but it's going to be so much fun. So definitely tune in for that because that one will be chaotic in the extreme. How are we going to stay awake, George, all night? How are we going to wake up our neighbours?
Thank you very much for agreeing to be on our podcast.
Thank you.
Remember, everybody, go to rentshuffleandroll.co.uk and use the code GITG50 to get 50% off your first month of rentals from Rent Shuffle and Roll. I'll just add that one in there because I had to do that under some reason. Hello. Anyway, we're all going to go now. Okay. Thanks very much. And remember to back You Know It on Kickstarter. And get into games.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.